I would like to call the June 9th, 2026 budget workshop public meeting to order. It is 4:30 p.m. There is a quorum present. Notice of this meeting has been posted in a time and manner required by law. Mr. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Yeah, Cliff Williams.
Present.
Scott Carson.
Present.
Charles Berry.
Present.
Kyle Hagemeyer.
Present.
Paulette Trailer.
Present.
Nikki Lagway.
Present.
My name is Chad Jones. Thank you.
This time I would like to ask Mr. Mate to tell us all the great things that are going on.
Sir, it was favorite time of the year, once again. Here tonight for budget workshop number 2. A couple of the topics. This is going to be pretty informal. I do want to have some back and forth with y'all especially as we start to go over the revenue projections and, sorry, I'm going to make sure I get up here closer. As we start to go over the revenue projections and really dive into the new law as far as HB2. It's my understanding that that was signed into law last week, so we are working to try to run and update those numbers. I do have some preliminary projections for you all tonight, but tonight we're going to go over, as normal, our budget assumptions, some preliminary property values, take another look at CALFE once again, and then look at our expenditures, namely compensation packages and things along those lines. Take a look at that legislative update, and then talk about some debt service items. I mean, we're going to sneak in some insurance. If we take a look at assumptions, in the last couple of years, as far as our ADA, it is steadily growing. Look at 2 years ago, we were at 8,150. This year, we're going to end at just above 8,470. Looking at next year and trying to project out what that's going to be, because that is what our funding is based off of. Projecting the growth of approximately 280 students. I feel like that's realistic, yet conservative. Hopefully we will surpass that. Last year, if you remember, I adopted the budget on 8,400 students. We surpassed that number, so hoping that's going to be the case again for this year. If we take a look at our tax rate, this is the last 2 years. I do want to highlight that for 25-26, this is potential. This is based off of the preliminary property values that I put into the template and based off of how the law is currently predicted to be as far as with our M&O rate. But as it sits right now, our M&O rate is projected to be compressed down another about 5 cents, just under 5 cents. So if that does happen, and I do say if, that tax rate will be, total tax rate will be just under $1. Or just under 99 cents at 98.70. That will not be certified until we get those certified values at the end of July. We take those numbers, we submit them to the state, and they tell us what that M&O max or maximum compressed rate can be. But if it does come to pass, we could be looking at a total tax rate of under $1 for Willis. Any questions there? Like I mentioned, our property values, this is the first view of preliminary property values from Montgomery County. So as of right now, our taxable value is up just over 14%. I do anticipate that going down as they start doing the ARB reviews and the protest reviews. That number goes down slightly. I anticipate it probably landing somewhere in the 11 to 12% range. Normally it drops a couple percentage points, and we'll see. Although I've been surprised the last couple of years post-COVID, it's taken some pretty big dips, but it's starting to steady out and hopefully end up in the 12% range, 12 to 13, hopefully. Okay, so this is a view of our current year, where the budget is currently adopted. Revenues just over $89.4 million and expenditures just under $90 million. That's including that bus purchase. That is why that's slightly different. I feel good about these numbers. Obviously this year we have been heavily monitoring the current taxes as far as our local revenue. We've had some up and downs this year with those, but where it sits right now, I do feel confident that we will hit that number. And expenditures, that just under $90 million, I do feel confident about that as well. I'm hoping that we can come in just under that. We do have those buses coming in. But payroll is the biggest part of that, so payroll projections starting to get a tighter line on that. I do think that we're going to come in just under that number. So taking this and building onto it for next year. Looking at 25-26, this is my base budget. I will say, obviously, building onto it, we add CalFee, we add new personnel, we add compensation. We'll say just for discussion purposes, this $15.3 million does include total operations for next year, so that does include some increased expenditures for CalFee as far as increased utilities, increased insurance, which I'm going to show you all a little bit later. I did some grinding on that number. I got that number down a decent amount from last year, as far as just looking through and trying to find areas where we could get that number down comparatively, especially since we're adding some operating expenses with CalFee. But looking at CalFee and building upon that, I know I've shown you all these numbers before, but we are looking at just over $2.6 million for the additional personnel for CalFee. And you add stipends on top of that. That's eligible stipends for fine arts and athletics. That's not new stipends. That's stipends that the positions they are eligible for on our current list, what those cost. So we're looking at an amount just over $2.7 million. Looking around the county, there are obviously other school districts that are opening schools. I was reaching out to them, seeing how much their new facilities are costing them to open. They told me 2.5, and I was a little interested in that. Kind of made me mad. Almost started cutting some more Bob's positions. But that the campuses they're opening are only 2 grade levels, as opposed to 3. So I actually do feel very good about this number and where we're ending as far as that 2.7. So we take our baseline, we add CalFee to it, and then we look at new personnel. If we look at new personnel this year, as it is every year, we reviewed it again. The primary focus was on instruction and the positions needed for the enrollment growth. So if you take a look, this list is primarily the positions that had an impact on the general fund. So it's 5 teaching positions. If you take a look, it's mainly teaching positions in special education, dyslexia, instructional coaches. The 3 or 4 on the bottom are the ones mainly for operations as far as registrar, 1 Clan K, a buyer for the procurement office, and then 1 transportation supervisor. Are there any questions about anything so far? So if you take those lists and just projected some of those, we have posted and are looking to hire. We've not filled those yet, but as far as budgeted amounts, I'm just under $1.3 million for those positions. So the real compensation, as far as how much that's going to cost, what we're required to do under the new law, and what can we do. So if you look at HB2, districts with 5,000 or more enrollment, which obviously we fall into, creates the permanent teacher allotment. So that requires us to do $2,500 for teachers with 3 or 4 years of experience and $5,000 per teacher with 5 or more years of experience. We did confirm last week that this does not fund additional fees. That has to be to their base salary. It does not fund, obviously there's going to be additional TRS costs associated with paying anybody more, but this does not fund that. This just funds that base increase. The cost based on doing that, based on a current snapshot of employees, is $1.7 million. I will add that is just the cost of the $2,500 and the $5,000. That does not include the step increase, which I can go into a little more detail here. So this is what I would anticipate something of what our teacher scale would look like, or some options for it to look like. So the new law creates the permanent teacher allotment. That's funded and required by HB2. If we left our scale the same and add that on top of it, obviously the step would come into play. And if we left that the same and included the step on top of that, that would cost the district about $337,000. That's obviously, I've gone back and forth with some other districts to see, try to find out what they're doing. But at the end of the day, the financial position we're in, we're going to have to look at both options as far as leaving that step in there or adjusting it to basically the net increase for just HB2. If we adjusted it just for the increase for HB2 and what's required, it would look something like this. So essentially, it is adjusting these steps down one to where the base salary does not change, and you're adding the permanent teacher allotment on top of that. So the net increase for 3 and 4 would be $2,500, and for over 4 would be the $5,000. That is an option we have to do. We did something similar 2 years ago when we held salaries the same. And then we'd have to make the decision on teachers with experience 0 to 2. Obviously, HB2 does not fund anything for those teachers. We could make the district decision to do that. Talking with Dr. James, something that we want to do. We could create the Willis allotment, or Willis adjust our pay scales accordingly, or adopt an allotment for those teachers. Running the snapshot, we have about 155 that fall into that category now. Obviously, we're hiring, that could shift a little bit, but if we did $1,000 for those 3 steps in some capacity, obviously that would cost about $150,000. Any questions on that?
Do you know what other districts are doing for 0 to 2? Or are they just not doing anything?
The few that I've talked to are not doing anything at the moment, but I suspect that's going to change as we go through the summer. I think it's going to be hard to not do something. I think my goal as Willis and Dr. James' goal would be to try to do something for those 0 to 2. Especially those that were 0 last year coming back to us on 1 year. The goal would certainly not to be to hold them the same, to try to get them something. And so today's goal is to really just show you all a baseline on where we're at and then build on it and really try to finalize it over this next month or so. But it's definitely my goal to try to do something for those 3 steps. So if we looked at anything beyond that, so teachers, just what's required by HB2 is the 1.7 million. If we basically looked at 3% for every other category, what would that cost, and what would we add to the budget to do that? So teacher support, I separate this out because in prior bills, anybody on the teacher scales received the same raises that teachers did. Per this new law, that's not the case. That permanent teacher allotment only affects teachers that teach over 4 more hours per day. So it does not count librarians, counselors, instructional coaches, any of those other positions that fall on our teacher scales. It does not affect them, and they will not receive that raise from the state. So we will have to decide what to do locally for that group of employees. 3% for that group. Budget is about $204,000. For non-exempt, that's all of our hourly support personnel. 3% for that group's just over $400,000. And then for administration personnel, being principals and central office, 3% would be about $172,000. So if we looked at the big picture, if we looked at total budget with just the teacher raise only, no raise for any other group, we're looking at just over $96 million in expenditures. If we include the 3% for everything else, we're just under 97. Obviously, if we looked at adding in anything for the 0 to 2, or if we looked at increasing the step, including the step in there, that's going to add another 337. That would add to that number. So just to be clear on that, so we're looking at just around $97 million. Obviously, this is the expenditure side. I feel pretty confident where these numbers are as of right now, because I can build expenditure budgets all day long. As far as telling you how much we're going to get based off the new law, that's a little trickier at the moment, but we are going to dive into it a little bit. But any questions thus far as expenditures, what we're looking at adding? Okay, Now, just take a few minutes to look at HB2 and the changes that it made and how it affects us. So like I mentioned earlier, districts with 5,000 or more, it provides that permanent teacher allotment. That's 2,500 to 5,000 based off the years of experience. It provides a basic allotment increase of $55. For us, based off of our ADA projected at $87.50, that's about $480,000. This was obviously a big topic going back and forth during the legislative cycle. That's not the increase that we were hoping for into the basic allotment. What they do is they create the basic allotment and they created these other separate allotments to avoid basically increasing the basic allotment, which is more set in stone. The thing that worries me about the other allotments is that the next legislative cycle, those have the potential to go away or more easily go away. And so that's what worries me from my standpoint. For the other allotments, there is a $45 allotment per regular program ADA for support staff salaries. Obviously, we're grateful. This is a little bit of fluff, but based off of our ADA projections, it's just under $400,000. That's meant for all support staff, which is supposed to be meant for those librarians, counselors, instructional coaches. If you take a look back at 3% just for our hourly, cost over $400,000. So that doesn't necessarily even fund just the hourly raise if we were to give that. This was the bigger increase as far as outside of the teacher pay raise piece. It was a new $106 allotment for basic cost. This is to be allocated per enrolled student basis, which is a change. Obviously, most things are normally based off of ADA. This is based off of enrollment. And this is to help districts fund certain fixed costs, such as utilities, transportation fees. In my view, this was done in lieu of increasing the basic allotment. They didn't want to increase the basic allotment, so they created this allotment to help with these costs. If we look at our enrollment currently, it's at just under, this new funding would be just under $1 million. If we look at projected enrollment, which should be around $9,700 is what we're, 9,700 students is what we're looking at, is just over $1 million for this allotment. It increases our safety allotment to $20 per ADA and then $33,540 per campus. So to give you a view of what we're currently getting, we're just currently getting $246,000 in a safety allotment projected. But based off the new law, we'll receive $543,000, so it's just under a $300,000 increase there. At the end of the day, our safety budget for next year is about $1.9 million. So obviously this funding does not fully cover that, so this is just, at the end of the day, additional funding to the district.
Does that number just include payroll?
It doesn't have any strict guidelines on what it has to be spent on as far as similar to the SPED and everything else. They just throw safety allotment in there and say, we're giving you $543,000, but at the end of the day, we're spending almost $2 million.
That's right, so that's what was my question,
Oh.
on your budget, the
Oh.
1.9, what does that include?
It's not technically payroll because we contracted the county, so
Yeah.
technically it's contracted service on our books. But yes, sir, the very high majority of that is the contract through Montgomery County for our SROs. Other special education. This is the piece that we're still getting clarity on because when I asked about this, it's $1,000 per initial new. That's a little redundant in my view, but initial new evaluation. So I need to touch base with Ms. Gay to kind of project out how many of these we typically perform in a year, and then we're going to have to get clarity about which ones actually qualify for this funding. But obviously, if we got about 150 to 200 of these, if that's a realistic ballpark, that's a couple $100,000 in funding for that. The piece that I was mainly waiting on was the updated weighting for the SPED, and that's where more of the significant dollars are going to come from. But what I'm reading up to this point is saying that that weighting is not going to go into effect until fund year 27. So we would not see any of those increases until the following budget year. So at the end of the day, after all of that, what does that mean as far as new money for the district? that is what I've been spending the last few weeks trying to figure out, and I've run a dozen different scenarios with ranges coming all over the map. But if we lean on our representative, this is a letter that y'all probably received as well. But for 2026, their estimate for increased funding is about $4.2 million. So again, talking to my counterparts, what is a baseline that I can use to project budget for next year? And the most accurate to date is basically to take our current law, our current funding, add that new money that they add that 4.2 million that they say is that we're going to receive, and then factor in enrollment growth. And so you factor in about 280 new students. You factor in those new allotments. We also factor in the new instructional facility allotment for CalFE, which we should receive about $700,000 to $750,000 for that funding in year one. If you factor all that in, I'm landing about just over $96 million in revenue.
Is that allotment with the more per kid, $1,000 per student?
Yes, sir. It starts at $1,000 per student. They have a specific funding level that the state sets aside, and depending on how many districts apply for it, when it all comes out of the wash, that number $1,000 could go down a little bit if they have more people apply than there's funding for it. But it's the baseline is $1,000 per student. Last time we applied for it for Lagway, I believe it was just under 1,000. I think it was in the 950 range per student is what we ended up getting for Lagway. So if we use that as a baseline, and again, I'm as confident in that number as I can be at the moment. I will say it is very likely that that number shifts as we go through the summer and as we get some more clarity on how the new law goes into effect and how these formulas play out. The biggest impact is going to be the homestead exemption. As far as, at the end of the day, I'm relatively confident in $96 million. These numbers are going to shift dramatically once that 40,000 homestead exemption goes into play. That's going to reduce our local revenue, and that's going to increase our state revenue. So that
Appraised values are gonna go up too, so what does that?
as of right now, appraised value is going up 12 to 14%. But if you take the increased homestead exemption into play, and then you put a little bit more on top of that for the over 65 increase that they're projecting, on this number should go down. And then you add on top of that our compressed tax rate. If our tax rate goes down another 5 cents on top of that, our local revenue is going to go down for next year, with the state picking up a bigger piece of our funding for next year. The county's scrambling right now, trying to figure out the impact of that homestead exemption increase. That was, if you recall, 2 years ago, that was the main issue we had with the hiccup we had with the county, and was calculating the homestead increase from 60 to 100 and how they calculated that. And that's what's resulted in us doing this property value audit appeal for this year. That was the main impact. So I'm going to be staying on top of them this summer and hopefully get some relying on. At the end of the day, we have to rely on them for those numbers. But given the issues we dealt with last time around, I'm hoping for a better outcome this summer. So we're looking at $96 million for total projected revenues. If we look at the scenario for just the teacher raise only, obviously we're just over $96 million. That's a slight deficit there. If that was the case, I feel like we could be strategic and we could overcome that, and we could balance that. But obviously, if we're looking at going beyond just the teacher raises, which I think is the goal of me and everyone else here, we're looking at closer to $97 million on the expenditure side. If you take a look at that compared to the currently projected 96, that's about an $886,000 deficit there. To be honest, that's a little better scenario than I projected 2 weeks ago. And so I'm hoping this is me putting faith in the state and their numbers, but I'm hoping as clarity, if we get clarity from the law, that this number will continue to go down, that revenue number continues to go up as we get some updated numbers from them, is obviously the hope. But I will keep you all updated on what that looks like as I continue to get some updates. But as of this scenario, we are looking at just under $900,000 in the deficit with that raise scenario. Obviously, if we added, this made the local decision to keep this step in place or to do something for the 0 to 2 teachers, that would add on top of that a little bit. So, this is not something that I've had to deal with in my tenure here, or it's not something that we've had to deal with in Willis for a long time as far as looking at a potential deficit. Looking at next year, obviously looking at the deficit numbers, we do have that property value audit that we could recoup some money from that would help us for 1 year, that could push us out of the deficit for 1 year. But if we are facing this, what does that look like? At the end of the day, adopting the deficit is adopting the budget with a higher amount of expenses than revenues. I will say that this is, that we have to take into account budget versus actual. Obviously, I try to be as realistic yet conservative when I'm building these budgets. We've adopted balanced budgets the last few years. We've run some slight surpluses. So if we end up adopting an $800,000 deficit, and then at the end of the day, we might actually only realize $500,000, or we might even get closer to balancing. That might be the reality of it. But at the end of the day, if we did realize a deficit, it would come out of our fund balance. That amount. So what does that look like, and what does our fund balance look like? So if we look at funding options for a deficit, obviously fund balance is the first option. As of last audit, we have $47.6 million in fund balance. That is an extremely healthy fund balance. TEA recommends per the first report a minimum of 75 days of operating expenditures in fund balance. 47.6 million represents 206. So as far as district goes and our numbers go, it is extremely healthy. And if that fund balance is under $1 million, we could maintain that for a few years if needed, if we do not decide to take any other action. Other options are reduce expenditures. Sorry, that's Stephen telling me to speak up a little bit. The majority of our budget, as you'll know, is payroll. Looking at these numbers, just over 84% is payroll. So if we're reducing expenditures, it's hard to look at the budgets without trying to reduce payroll, which would mean reducing people. Obviously, yes, sir.
You wouldn't happen to have that broke down into instructional and administrative, would you?
I could. Yes, sir. That is how we adopt as far as instructional. I don't have it in front of me. But
Okay,
I can definitely get that. Yes, sir. I can definitely get that to you. But then we look at what we have to accomplish the next few years as far as opening Calvin Middle School, elementary 7, and then the 9th grade addition. We're going to be, frankly, we're going to be adding personnel to fund and fill those new campuses. Health insurance. Health insurance is going to be a big topic in July. I've looked at a lot of options as far as that is one area where we could reduce and cut some costs. Right now we're on a self-funded plan. There's new legislation that allows districts to jump back in onto the TRS plan, and some are doing that to cut costs. That's something that we could look at doing if we got there. And I'm going to present some of those options to you all in July to look at. The other option is to increase revenues. The primary factor for our revenue is our enrollment and, more importantly, our ADA. So if we start to hit some of these growth figures that PASA and others are saying that we're going to hit, these 4-digit growth, as far as over 1,000 kids per year that they say that we could hit in a few years, we could very easily grow out of a deficit situation. I will say the primary reason why we're looking at a potential deficit is because we're adding a new campus. It's not uncommon that districts that are growing and having to fund personnel for new facilities to be facing the situation that we're in. If we continue to grow, with enrollment and more importantly ADA. I know y'all focused on some programs to try to, and we've focused as a district to increase our ADA, increase our attendance. But if we continue and do realize some of those numbers, 1,000 students represents just over $6 million in just the basic allotment. When you take the special populations into effect, we could be looking at $6 to $6.5 million just for 1,000 students. So if we start to realize that very heavy growth, obviously we have to take into consideration the voucher program, and obviously our goal as a district, talking to Dr. James, that's the primary goal is to attract people to our district. And that's the programs that we're trying to implement with the strategic plan. A few things there is to get families and students to come to our district. And so if we do realize that growth, we could very easily grow ourselves out of the small deficit situation that we are in, and that is very possible. The other option that some, even locally, have turned to is a VADER. A VADER, at the end of the day, it's the voter-approved tax ratification election. It is going to the voters to ask their permission and approval to increase our M&O tax rate. So that is, again, is that 619 is the maximum compressed rate that is dictated to us by the state. That is the highest level that we can tax that without going to the voters for approval. So a VADER is just that, going to the voters for approval to increase that. And that is an option further on down the line if we feel like it's the best option.
For your question.
Yes, sir.
So, and that's what last fall Montgomery did theirs, passed, Magnolia went out for one and failed. Is that
Correct.
right? Did Conroe, or is Conroe?
I don't believe Conroe was in a position where they went for one. You're correct. Montgomery did go out for one last fall. It has to be done in November, but theirs passed and Magnolia did fail.
Okay.
And if we did decide that was an option, we would have to decide how much. I think, going off memory, I think you can increase it up to 8, maybe a little bit more than that. But we could look at what a 1 cent, 2 cent, or 3 cent, what that impact would be, and if it would be worth it. Before I move on to the next topic, is there any other questions as far as budget, funding, anything else about this picture before we kind of move on?
We approve our budget in August, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
So we got a couple more months to see.
We do. And I can guarantee you these numbers will shift between now and then. But we set to adopt our tax rate and our budget at the August board meeting. We receive our certified tax values, supposed to receive them by July 25th. They've been late the last couple of years with the homestead exemption. That's honestly a possibility. If they're a little late again, we might have to push that date back a little bit, because we have to have a certain amount of time of a public posting with that tax rate, and we can't get that until we get those certified values. So if that's pushed back, we might have to push it back to a little later in August. Any other questions on that?
Have you ran any idea what you think the cost is gonna be for the 9th grade center when it opens up?
The 9th grade will be, and similar to elementary, it's gonna be less of an impact than Calfee, because obviously if we move a grade level over there, we're shifting those teachers more so. It's mainly just gonna be the impact of the enrollment growth that we have that year and having to add the teachers for the enrollment growth. But other than that, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, as far as the programs and the classes that we're shifting over there are not gonna necessarily be new. And so it's gonna be a significantly less impact than what we're seeing now right now with Calfee.
Transportation facility, the same thing? Not gonna be as much?
Correct. There's going to be very little personnel as far as required growth with the transportation. It's more just moving everybody we currently have over there. In elementary 7, elementary is a little less of an impact just because it's with the scheduling and the block schedules of the secondary, you don't have as much leeway you have to shift more teachers and add more teachers to fill those positions. But with elementary, the more students that you shift over, you can shift shift teachers easier from other campuses based on just the numbers per grade level. So I do not, to your point, I do not anticipate as big of an impact with CalFE with elementary 7 or the 9th grade in the next 2 years.
But we'll have them both at the same time, so we'll be feeling that at the same time.
We'll open 7 next year.
That's right, yeah,
One year
yeah,
apart.
one year apart, that's right.
I think that's the big thing for me is like the next 3 years and even possibly skip a year and then we've got another possible elementary or something opening at that time is, you know, I don't mind going 800,000 in the hole for a year or even 2 because we do have a healthy fund balance, but at the end of the day, you can only spend what you don't have for so long.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's the only thing about if the Vader is the best option, I think, you know, earlier rather than later, we need to get that out there that that's the, you know, direction we want to go in order to get as close as we can to a balanced budget, so.
Yes, sir. We have a few options for next year as far as, like, we have that property value audit in our back pocket that could provide additional funding for next year. And then we could gauge the enrollment growth for next year, but we can look at all of that. There's a few steps that we have to do before we do a Vader. We have to do an efficiency audit. That's basically an audit of procedures before we do that.
That's where I come from. You don't, when it's tight like that, you don't get more debt. Now, if that's our only option, that's our only option, right? But we don't go get more debt because that problem won't go away. You know what I'm saying? Realistically, it's gonna be a continuous. I mean, the Vader, I get it, but we need to look at this really hard. I mean, 2 years ago, we didn't give teachers a raise because that was the right thing to do to make sure we didn't roll up deficit budget. Teachers just got substantial raises. I mean, I wish they got more, but, something we need to look at for sure.
Yeah, I will say that is going to be, obviously it's fantastic that they got the raises, that they're going to get the raises this year, and I'm very happy about that. But moving into next year, and what we're obviously, if we're looking at a slight deficit, and if that ends up being the realization, going into next year and having to add elementary 7, even with the new funding, it's going to be harder to do anything to compensation. That's going to be a decision that we're going to have to make there. One other note is, I know I've mentioned to y'all this a couple of times, is that something that worries me is interest and investment earnings. Because we have a healthy fund balance, we've been earning a very healthy amount in interest. But as interest rates go down, I believe as of right now, they're continuing to hold steady, but if they do decrease like they're anticipated to do over the next couple of years, that's essentially to us a funding cut because we've at this point it's helped keep us in the black the last few years because we've had a healthy fund balance and we're earning an extra $2.7 to $3 million per year. So as that number diminishes, it's going to be something else that we're facing.
You mentioned something about the land as well, too, right?
Say that again?
Land we have around here,
Land?
can we own, we could sell that?
That's always a possibility. As far as land we have, obviously with the growth that we're going to be facing, and the additional facilities that we're going to have to look at in the future, that would be probably the last thing we would try to do when it comes to that. Just because we're going to have to grow. I know Bob's looking all the time for additional land to see what we can grow into. Because at the end of the day, that's something we're going to face. There's going to be very little land left here in the next 10, 15 years in Montgomery County.
So just putting all options out there.
Yeah.
We can try to understand
Yep,
all
yeah.
options.
Well, and even this year, we had those easements that we sold, and that on this year's budget, I mean, we got an extra almost $600,000 for that, and we're looking at that acre across from. There was just very little that we could do with the acre from the post office and things along those lines.
Here, something else, when you're getting those percentages for me, could you let me know how many coaches we have at the elementary level in reading and math in the 4th grade level across the whole district?
Okay. Instructional coaches?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to next topic, bonds. So this is something that's gonna be on the agenda later tonight, and I wanna take a few minutes to discuss it with y'all now and answer any questions as we go back and forth. So, as y'all remember, May 2024, voters approved 102.7. Last October, we issued 15 million of that. That's 87.7 million remaining from that. In April, I brought to y'all and y'all approved issuing 45 million of that. That was the game plan at that time. Issue 45 million this summer, issue the remaining 42 next summer, as we needed it to fund those projects. The hope was that interest rates would go down and we could sell those bonds at a lower interest rate and save us interest money in the long term. Since then, there's been proposed legislation that would provide a financial benefit to us issuing the full amount now. This is due to the potential increase in the homestead exemption. So at the end of the day, they are looking at increasing the homestead exemption from 100,000 to 140,000. As a result of that, obviously our taxable value goes down. So we bring in less taxes for the values we have. And so what they are saying, this, to try to summarize it, is if we issue debt before 9/1, and then the value that we lose as a result of the increase in the 40,000 homestead exemption, that they will hold us harmless and we will receive state funding for that lost revenue. So given that, I do see a financial benefit in us going ahead and issuing that and getting that on the books, because we can receive some state funding for. Otherwise, if we sold the 42 next summer, which we were planning on, but if we sold it next summer, we would be dealing with basically a whole new set of taxable values with that homestead exemption increase in place. So I do think that there's a benefit to go ahead and issue it this summer, and there will be an agenda item later tonight asking for y'all's approval for that. I will add that while we are monitoring it, in my discussions next week, that's pretty much a sure thing that that's already in place. And if it is, then I do think this is the best route. We do still have the ability, even if y'all approve the full 87 million, if something drastically shifted in the next 2 weeks, we still have the ability to issue less than that. So it just gives us the flexibility and the option to, if we decide to switch back and issue just the 45 million, we still have the ability to do that, even with y'all approving the 87. Any questions on that end? Lastly, I'm going to talk to y'all about our insurance renewal. This is our TASB property insurance renewal. We were anticipating an uptick for this year just on the basis of adding CalFee. So our renewal came back at just under $1 million. To compare what that looked like to last year, our premium last year for the same policies were $786,000. So we're looking at about a $200,000 increase in that. The majority of that is a result of adding CalFee to the policy, but also some premium increases along those lines. I will say that we did make a very strong effort to go and get additional quotes for specifically property, because that's the most expensive policy we have. At the end of the day, TASB specifically serves school districts, and we found very little, honestly, no one who was willing to even submit a bid because they knew they couldn't compete with the policy. I put Kelly on it, and as y'all know Kelly, she did go out and sent multiple vendors all of our information to try to get them to submit bids, and a couple of them came back and said we're not going to be able to touch them. So, which is the very same thing I'm hearing from the surrounding districts that I've talked to. Montgomery went out for last year. This was the only bid they got was TASB as well. So it's nothing new. It doesn't shock me. Obviously, we were hoping, but it's the situation we're in. I did go back to them to see if there was anything that we could do to reduce those rates. At the end of the day, the only way to do that is to change our deductibles. So right now, for anything, they pretty much lumped in anything weather related into 2% $250,000. So if it's anything that's not weather related, that would be similar to the fire situation we had at Lynn Lucas. The deductible is $100,000. Everything else is 2% for property. Or if there's a flood, earthquake, or crime. I don't know how flood's not weather, so that comes into play. You can figure that out. But I did ask if we increase those deductibles, what we could save. If we increased it from 100 to 250, increase it from 2% to 3%, it would save about $60,000. So that's the situation we're looking at. I'm not quite sure it'd be worth it to take that risk. If we look back at the last few years of claims, honestly, last 2 years, the claims that we have had didn't meet the deductible we had in place, so it wasn't even worth filing anything. The last one we did have was the fire, and the one before that was the freeze claims that we had at the high school, mainly the coils and things along those lines. So we could save a little bit of money to go with the higher deductibles. That's something that we're going to be reviewing to see if it's worth it or not. Any questions there? Okay. That's it. Mostly got us there. So, any last questions on this? The next step is July. Hoping to provide you a little bit more clarity and hopefully some positive news on the revenue number, but honestly dive into health insurance a little bit and what that looks like. We'll be bringing to you our Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal for next year, but then talk to y'all about what the options are moving beyond next year, because as y'all know, the last few years we've transferred some money to supplement our health insurance fund. As you see, we don't really have the capacity to do that anymore. And so this year, I believe the health insurance fund will take a little bit of a hit to its fund balance. And so the goal is to reduce and cut costs in that area. And so that's what we're going to be bringing, hopefully a snapshot of in July. Anything else?
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, sir.
At this time, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting, Mr. Williams?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. It's 5:18 p.m. The following meeting will start at 5:30. I would like to call the June 9th, 2025 board meeting to order. It is 5:30 p.m. There is a quorum present. Notice of this meeting has been posted in a time and manner required by law. Mr. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Cliff Williams.
Present.
Scott Carson. Present. Charles Perry. Kyle Hagemeyer.
Present.
Ms. Paulette Trailer.
Present.
Ms. Nikita Lagway.
Present.
My name is Chad Jones. Thank you.
Turn over to Dr. James for invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, and I believe it's Travis, are you doing the invocation today? Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll stand up, ready to pledge. First, American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. At this time, will you please bow? Dear God, I just want to come to you at this time and just lift up this entire meeting to you. And all that we do tonight, dear God, is in your name and in your glory, and we just thank you for that. I just ask you to be with every member of the school board today and the decisions they have to make, that they do those and not only honoring the students of Willis ISD, but honoring your name as well. We just ask for protection and safety on everybody involved in tonight's meeting and across our district. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. James, Ms. DeLosa. We are here tonight to recognize our softball and our baseball programs. They're phenomenal seasons they had this year. Got a lot of awards. A lot of our kids couldn't be here tonight. They've got other engagements, but phenomenal seasons by both baseball and softball. We are, as a community, as a school district, as an athletic department, super, super proud of them. And I want to bring up Coach Laura, our head girls softball coach.
Good evening, board members, Dr. James and Ms. DeLosa. Thank you for recognizing our student athletes tonight. We're proud to have earned a by-district championship this season with 7 players named to the all-district team for their performance on the field, including Newcomer of the Year. In addition to their success on the field, our team excelled in the classroom, having 11 student athletes earn academic all-district honors, including 3 seniors who also received academic all-state. Joining us tonight are Bobby Reddicks, academic all-district and second team all-district. And Madison Culp, academic all-district and first team all-district. Thank you guys for your continued support of our program, and go Cats.
Good evening, board. Dr. James, Mr. Losa. Thank you all for recognizing softball and baseball athletes tonight. It means a great deal to our team, our families, for the recognition of their hard work and their accomplishments. I also want to give a special thanks to our coaching staff, Brett Taft, John Wilson, and Will Kelly. Their commitment, their hard work, it was paramount to our athletic success, their passion, their dedication for our players. This past season, we were fortunate enough to become back-to-back by-district champs. We had the most district wins since joining 6A, but we also had a lot of individual achievements. We had 15 players receive academic all-district honors. We had 10 players receive 10 players receive all-district honors, and then 2 seniors with academic all-state. And then as of this afternoon, we had a first-team all-state designated hitter being honored this afternoon. So we're especially proud of everybody in our program, but especially those with those individual achievements. Tonight we do have 2 of our players to represent us. First is Keaton Jeffcoat. He was 13-6A first team all-district shortstop and academic all-district as a freshman. We also have Shea Holiday, who was a 13-6A first team all-district pitcher for us and also academic all-district. Great job, sir.
Big smile. Congratulations. And that will conclude our recognitions for the afternoon.
Perfect. Next section, item 4. Public comments. The board will hear comments for the audience only during the public comment portion of the meeting. The public comment portion of the meeting will be no longer than 30 minutes. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board. Groups of 5 or more who wish to express the same viewpoint on an issue shall appoint a representative to speak on behalf of the group, and they will have 3 minutes to present unless the topic is an item on the board agenda. Please respect the privacy of others. Refrain from identifying students, employees, and other community members by name. I will determine whether the speaker has attempted to solve this matter administratively through resolution channels established by policy. If not, the speaker will be referred to the appropriate policy to seek resolution. Disruption of this meeting will not be tolerated at any time. Per board policy, the board does not respond during public comments. Our first speaker tonight is Diane Hibner.
Tonight, our case will be directed to each and every one of you as the members of the WISD School Board regarding one of your own, trustee number 5. The facts which will be presented should lead to only one conclusion: you're fired. The evidence for such a conclusion has been presented in the past to you, the board, since September 12th, 2023, when trustee number 5 was charged with a DWI. No action was taken. For the next year, additional data was provided to you regarding possible fraud and corruption at the local, state, and federal levels involving trustee number 5. No action was taken. On September 30th, 2024, trustee number 5 appeared in a court of law where he was subsequently found by a jury of his peers to be guilty of the September 12th, 2023 charge of DWI. Still, no action was taken. The last straw that broke the camel's back was the arrogant outrage of trustee number 5 during the school board meeting of May 14th, 2025. His vicious, unprofessional, and nasty demeanor was unacceptable and unbecoming of a representative of we the people in the performance of conducting the business of the school board. Members of the community, as well as the staff of the WISD school district, were appalled at this attack of a board member against an employee of the school district. His uncontrolled, angry outburst was a display of intimidation and or harassment of an employee of the district. I ask myself, who wants to be associated with a school district whereby a member of the school board is allowed to run rampant, destroying the new vision which the superintendent, administration, and staff, as well as the community, have all joined together to create a new, trustworthy, and forward-thinking school district? Accountability is what we, the people, demanded, and accountability is what we are getting with these new staff members and the creation of procedures of operation which are both efficient and legal. How dare trustee number 5 attempt to destroy this new vision? He wants to function with the old processes, whereby his power was the rule of law and ethical violations were acceptable. This presentation leaves no doubt that your verdict must be, you're fired. Case closed.
Our next speaker is Bob Holden.
Good afternoon. I'm a little less dramatic. There were a lot of very positive things that happened in this last session legislatively for the school district. These are for me specifically. Look at LifeVac maybe being incorporated into our cafeterias. I've brought this up before but was gaslighted. And at that time, the company was giving it to schools at no charge to the schools. I gave information on anti-blue light glasses, perhaps, and warning about screen time on cell phones and computers. And there's a presentation. You can just go to online easily and watch this. It's less than an hour. Under science, this is a cute fact, as you know. I guess it was 16 of the last 25 years the Earth was actually cooling while we were told it was being warmed. But recently it has started warming, and NASA last month did some research to determine why. And they found there's just not enough pollution. There's too few particulates in the atmosphere for sufficient cumulus clouds to form, and that's contributing to global warming. So maybe the Great Green Hoax is contributing to global warming. Citizenship. Consider perhaps assigning for summer reading at the appropriate grade review of the Constitution using Hillsdale College online presentation. I believe it was 10 courses. And then they would be ready when they come back to school. You could then cover the Federalist Papers, which are complementary to those, to give them more cover on that. We may be en route to finally returning to real U.S. money. I guess y'all are aware of the Genius Act as money one of the most, and students may want to watch and be understanding of how this stable coin will return us to the United States currency. Education, and some more positive, there was $1 billion for those who choose to take their children out of public school that are now enrolled, but there was also $8 billion for teachers raises, and especially allowing for extra raises to those who are best performing in that field. Please stress critical thinking. I believe we're still teaching emotional intelligence, which on its face is an oxymoron, but it does have the benefit of training those who wish to become great con artists. It gives them great tools for that profession. Please notify parents that they can now opt out of vaccines by just going online. They no longer have to go directly to Austin. And another big plus, we can now kick out dangerous students out of the
It's 3
classroom.
minutes.
Sir?
Time's up.
Good, it worked great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Abby Yarborough.
Good evening. I want to take a moment to thank the board, not for leadership or transparency, but for the long road of obstruction, slander, and defamatory tactics some of you and your cronies have willingly forced on not only my family, but many others in our community. Your continued refusal to choose our children over your own ego or personal interest became the fuel behind legislative victories that have now been passed into law. Thank you. Your corruption forced action, and to the trustees who played both sides, enabled, ignored, or even participated in these failures, you are complicit. The unchecked corruption and the irresponsibility set by the board has negatively impacted our school district, leading our district to be named the 3rd worst performing district in the entire Houston area. We are tired of providing more than 50% of our property taxes to a district that continues to enable grossly negligent leadership. We are done supporting a board where image supersedes the truth. So before you raise our taxes, get to telling us the truth. Some of you sold the public very carefully crafted narratives in an effort to deflect, but those days of unchecked backdoor dealings and exploiting our 68% economically disadvantaged community are finally coming to an end because we chose to fight for what was right. Your failure to lead by example helped create the movement that will ultimately replace some of you. Thank you to our allies in Austin. It is only because of them and their strong leadership that change is no longer just a glimmer of hope. It is finally here. Thanks again for motivating this fight. We the people will continue to take it from here. Lastly, I would like to thank our current superintendent and a couple of our board members who have supported the positive direction and this change that we are now seeing in our district, and I hope to see that we are headed in a better direction. Thank you.
At this time, item 5, standing informational and ad hoc reports and items. Item A, Willis ISD parent-family engagement.
Good evening, Board, Dr. James and Ms. DeLosa. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes this evening. I'm here to provide a brief overview of the Parent-Family Engagement Plan for the 25-26 school year and to request your approval as part of the consent agenda. Let's start with the basics. Why do LEAs need a parent-family engagement policy? The short answer is it's required by federal law if we accept funds under the Every Student Succeeds Act, or otherwise known as ESSA. But the real question is, why does the federal government care so much about parent and family engagement? Because it works. When families are engaged, their children's education, families are engaged in their children's education, students show measurable academic and personal growth. It is important to understand the difference between parent involvement and parent engagement. Parent involvement is being invited to attend events or volunteer. Parent engagement means the families are active partners in shaping their child's education. Traditional involvement is a one-way task focus, but engagement is all about collaboration, mutual respect, and a shared responsibility for student success. When we shift from involvement to engagement, we see powerful results. Higher academic performance, increased student motivation, stronger sense of a school community, better communication and trust between family and school. And here's a powerful reminder. More than 85% of a child's waking learning hours are spent outside of school, primarily at home. That means families have the greatest opportunity to reinforce learning, build confidence, and shape long-term success. When we equip and engage our parents, we multiply our impact. Before I talk about next year's commitments, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude. A huge thank you to the IT&L team, our campus principals, and our instructional coaches. This school year, they have helped lead a shift in how we engage families, and the results have been encouraging. We have seen more parents at academic events, and more importantly, those events now send parents home with the resources and the confidence to support learning at home. It's no longer just attending a school function, it's about building a bridge between home and school. Looking ahead to 25-26 school year, our parent-family engagement policy is built around several key commitments: collaborative planning, effective communication, support and training, partnership building, staff development, community coordination, and annual evaluation. Each year, we will assess the plan's effectiveness and make improvements based on real feedback and data. At Willis ISD, we know that when families and schools work together, students succeed. This updated policy reflects a year of growth and a stronger commitment than ever to a meaningful learning environment. This policy was presented to the WIAC on May 6th and was voted out of the committee with no edits or any disapproval to present to you this evening for approval. I respectfully request your approval of the 25-26 parent-family engagement policy as part of the consent agenda, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
We can definitely see a big difference, okay? You had to be a lot better participation in certain things, and that's good to see. We need to get the parents in here. Great job.
Item B, student enrollment.
All right. Good evening, members of the school board, Dr. James and Ms. DeLosa. I am the poor man's version of the voice of the Wildcats, so I will give it a go this evening, but normally that fine-looking gentleman over there takes this opportunity, but here we go. All right. As of May 24th, 2025, our district enrollment is 9,350. That's an increase of over 345 over this date last year. That includes 198 more students at the secondary level and 154 at the elementary level. You can also see the campus and district attendance percentage for the month of May. We've had a great month across the district. You can see on the screen where 8 of our campuses have made progress and improved attendance from May 2024 to May of 2025. At this time, I would like to recognize the winner of the Momentum Maker Award for attendance, Brabham Middle School. Congratulations, Mr. Robert. And his greatest disappointment was that I had to take it from him, but he didn't know I was giving it right back. Yes. He's doing great things. Thank you.
Item C, financial reports, bill payment, and bond summary.
Yes, sir. Good evening again. As we discussed earlier in our budget workshop, I am feeling confident about this year's numbers, this fiscal year. Through May, we are over 97% collected in our local revenues. I do believe that we are going to hit our revenue budget by 100% by the end of August. For state aid, we will receive the remainder of those payments over the summer, with that settlement being in September. For the expenditures, the current budget is just under $90 million, and current projections do not have us surpassing that amount. I know we talked quite a bit earlier. Be happy to answer any additional questions.
Item D, construction update report.
Thank you, Board, Dr. James, Mr. Lotion. Will be our monthly, we're starting something new where we're going to be given a monthly construction update of all of our current projects, primarily on the bond projects. This is our Calfee Middle School, which is scheduled to open August of this year. This summer will be the first year. If you get a chance, we have set up a meeting for everyone to go out and take a look at it here real soon. So this is some photos that we've got currently right now. This is the front entrance of the middle school. If you drive there on Longmire, you'll be able to see that. It's a beautiful site. Courtyard that comes out from the library. It's also the backside of the stage and the cafeteria. This is what our current classroom 6th, 7th, and 8th grade commons areas look like. They're all three the same, but a different color. They're 2-story classrooms on the first floor and second floor. Science lab and classroom versus the dining area. The black box and the band hall. Gymnasiums. This project has reached substantial completion. The contractor, even though Duratec started 45 days late, the project was brought in on substantial completion per contract. So very pleased with Duratec and what they've done for the district on this project. The Transportation Center, VLK is our selected architect for this. This is a rendering of what we are currently moving forward with. This is the exterior of the building with the front view from the parking lot of the staff. A training room, and then the main hallway that goes straight through the building. There in the hallway, that main hallway to the left, you'll see that glass. That is actually the dispatch room. That's where all the bus drivers will pick up their keys every day. That's where all the dispatcher will be sitting. The training room. Here's the footprint of it, that this is located on the 42 acres that we have at the north end of town. We're taking the back half of it. So the item number 7 is the retention pond, and you'll see the buildings. The item number 6 is our current location for our water well and our water storage tanks. The areas for busing, we also have expansion for another 80 buses if we need. We're not developing it right now, but we are developing a little section there off to the edge of it where we're going to do the actual training of the bus drivers there on the property. Instead of having to leave the property to do the training, we're actually going to do it right there on site. The Willis High School parking lot. This is the current location of the parking lots that we're expanding this summer. I believe that it actually bid today. The numbers came in today, yes. So the goal is what we'll have open is, since we're removing the parking lot where the 9th grade is going to go, we've made it as part of this project that parking lot E, H, and I be completed before school starts. So when we remove that parking lot, we'll have those parking lots to replace it, so that way students won't be missing additional parking. Lynn Lucas, the middle school, the Fine Arts Edition. This is the new band hall, the new addition to the band hall. We took the old band hall and completely renovated it, and then we added this additional band hall to it. So now they have 2 rooms, and 2 of them are brand new. So this is the exterior of it, which is between the front entry and the auditorium. This is the new band hall here. Stantec was the architect on that. This is what the inside of the new addition looks like. That's it. Is there any questions?
I have a question, Bob.
Yeah.
What's the schedule on the transportation? What are we supposed to start and have completion?
The contractor was selected, which was Gamma. They've issued it to their subcontractors. We're hoping to have the GMP back in our hands for July or August board meeting. So we'll be breaking ground either late August or September. And our current schedule is to be open for 26-27 school year. So we'll be able to move everything over as soon as school is out of 26. Then we're going to move and transfer everything over to the new location and have it up and running before school starts.
Item E, 2024-2025 SHAC Annual Report.
Good evening, Board. Dr. James, Ms. DeLuca. I have the opportunity to present you guys with the 24-25 report for SHAC. Just a brief summary of what SHAC is. SHAC actually stands for School Health Advisory Council. And this little graph over here, or visual, it has all the components of SHAC and what it represents. So just a brief recap. SHAC met 4 times this school year. We met in October. The purpose of SHAC was presented to the council members and the vision for SHAC was discussed. Kelly Locke presented the current and proposed curriculum for substance use prevention for all grade levels. The material was presented to SHAC for review to vote for the next meeting. In December we met and materials were presented and the materials that were presented by Kelly in the October meeting were voted on and the committee unanimously approved the usage of these materials for substance use prevention. The idea of creating a SHAC newsletter was discussed and members agreed to contribute content on the SHAC related topics. The completed newsletter would be brought to the next SHAC meeting for approval. We met again in February and the completed newsletter was presented to SHAC and was voted on and we published it on the SHAC website. And then we had Sharon Jones, the Willis ISD Menu and Compliance Supervisor for the Child Nutrition Department. She came and she discussed and received feedback on healthier options, food item menus for diabetic students. And there was some feedback provided by the SHAC committee members, and she took that back to the department, and we revisited it again in April, where the newest newsletter was presented, and they approved that, and we published that as well. And then when Sharon came back, she discussed the changes that were made to the menu, and they initiated apples and sun butter as a menu option for students to grab and go. And she said that she was receiving positive feedback on that from the students. And then at that same meeting, we also had a high school student come. She presented a presentation on type 1 diabetes because she is a diabetic student. Other topics, availability of programs provided to parents and students through the AgriLife Extension Office, some more mental health resources and how to access them. And then recommendations for next year, we'd like to continue collaborating with the Child Nutrition Department to promote healthier eating options, contributing to the newsletter again, and then increasing student participation with the committee. The high school student that did the presentation wanted to implement like a student advisory portion of that, and we're gonna look at doing that next year as well. Any questions? Okay, great.
Thank you. Item F, 2024-2025 Willis ISD Map Assessment Report.
Good evening, Dr. James, School Board, Ms. DeLuca. I am here tonight to present some map data. This will be showing our students the achievement and growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and I think you're going to like what you see. Again, we have seen these charts and these graphs before. Something that I want to point out about that graph down at the bottom for math is that you'll notice we have some very tall bars. That means we have a lot of growth in math this year from the beginning until the end of the year. And if we look specifically at that, we can see our first graders and our second graders, both of those made huge growth, double-digit growths, and you will notice that the 2 boxes that are in gold have been outlined in green because not only did they meet that double-digit growth, but they also exceeded the projected growth as well. So we had some huge gains between that BOY, which is in purple, and that EOY, which is in blue. And then if we go on to our elementaries, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you'll see that both our third and our fourth grade also made that double-digit growth as well. You'll see that our third grade, because that gold is outlined in green, that they also met that projected growth. And then our fourth and our fifth grade only missed that projected growth by less than 3 points. So some good growth there as well. If we go on to 6th, 7th, and 8th, and we're not seeing double-digit growth, but I want to remind you of something that I presented before, and that is that growth is kind of like a baby. You have a lot of growth, and then it tapers off. And so when you get to 6th, 7th, and 8th, that growth is tapering off, and so that's what's happening here. We don't have those double-digit growth numbers anymore, but we still have growth, and you can see, especially with our 8th grade, has made huge growth and is very close to that expected growth there at 5.6, which is above. As well as our 6th grade, made huge growth as well. 5 there, expected to meet at 8.4, but some huge growth in 6th grade math. And then as we go on to reading, you can see our bars are not as tall as they were in math, but we still saw some growth in that. And so again, in our first and our second grade, you can see some large double-digit growth from beginning of the year, which is in blue, to orange, which is at the end of the year, with our second grade actually exceeding that expected growth, which is probably due a lot to using Haggerty in the classroom. That has been one of those things that plans that we have integrated as we use that. And then as you see our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, you see our 3rd grade is in double digits again, very close to the projected growth at 11.5. And then when you get into 4th and 5th grade, you see that growth is starting to taper, as it should. And again, all of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade made exceptional growth, and is only about 3 points away from that projected growth. And then when you get to 6th and 7th and 8th grade, again, you see that blue is our beginning of the year, the orange is at the end of the year. You see that growth gets smaller, but again, we are very close to that projected growth. And if we look at Spanish, Spanish does not have any diamonds. You just see the bars on the graphs. That's because Spanish does not have a projected growth in math, but you can see that we have made some great gains. Again, our 1st and 2nd graders are making some double-digit growth from the beginning of the year, which is in blue, to the end of the year, which is in a dark red, more orangey color. And then, of course, as we get to 5th grade, that growth is going to get smaller, but our Spanish is growing very well. And then something I know that has been a concern, at the beginning of the year when I presented, it was a concern when I talked about STAR, and that is our science. And you will notice when I show the science and you're looking at that graph at the bottom, you see that our 2 bars, our 5th grade is actually touching the diamond, and our 8th grade has exceeded the diamond. So when I look at this, again, from the beginning of the year, which is in yellow, to our end of the year, which is in blue, you'll see some huge gains. Again, 5th grade is only 0.3 points away from our projected growth, and our 8th grade actually exceeded that growth for the end of the year, what was projected. So we're making some great gains in science. And then just some of our action steps. Since math is now over and we have a chance to look at this, you can see that one of the things that we're going to do is compare STAR and MAP data. We're looking to see what similarities we see, what differences we see, were the projections in MAP correct for what our data shows for STAR. So we're looking at that. And then we're also already starting to do some summer discussions about what level of support our students need, what level of support our teachers need, so that they are ready to begin next school year. We're also supporting our teachers with that small group instruction. This right here is probably where we meet where we will see our biggest growth. That's where we work with our struggling learners, our 14, 16 kiddos, our sub-pop groups in those small group instruction areas. And then, of course, some of the things that we talked about, or one of the things that I talked about, was Haggerty, and that's just determining what instructional materials are the best to close these gaps and to meet that projected growth that we're seeing and want to be able to get in that map data. Any questions? Thank you.
Consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that a board member wishes to discuss? If none, we have a motion. Mr. Carson.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Ms. Trader. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. The board will now convene into closed session for the purposes of closed session. A, discuss teacher resignations and employee appointments, Texas Government Code 551.074. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.1.129, attorney consultation regarding legal issues pertaining to board operating procedures, code of ethics, related matters. C, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, consider and discuss board member duties, performance, and conduct. Item D, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.129, consult with school attorney concerning pending litigation concerning special education student and possible settlement. The matter style TEA docket 284-SE-0527 Travis J, Maria and Eleazar J versus Willis ISD. E, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.0821, deliberation concerning the school board, public school student wherein personally identifiable information will necessarily be revealed. It is 6:09. The board will now reconvene into open session. It is 7:45 p.m. Are there any motions from closed session? Mr. Williams.
Move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation and the school district's attorney and direct the superintendent and school district's attorney to proceed as discussed in closed session in the matter style TEA document number 284-SE-0525 Travis J, BNF Maria, and Eleazar J versus Willis ISD before a special education improvement officer.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Mr. Carson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Discuss and possible action items. A, discuss, consider approval of strategic plan.
I'm Travis Wisnet. I'm with Engage to Learn. My pleasure to be able to come here and present to you a strategic plan. A few things just I wanted to note of was just asked a question about what was unique about this experience. I have the blessing to be able to work with school districts around the country facilitating strategic plans. And one thing that I will say that was a truly unique experience working with y'all for the past 6 months was just the level of focus and commitment, particularly among your campus and district leaders. I've never seen that, not at that level. I've never seen a group of campus administrators, district administrators, and notably your superintendent that was as dialed in the design of a strategic plan as I saw during this process. And particularly Dr. James, I was telling Kayla, typically you will see a superintendent come in. Hi everybody, good to see everybody. Appreciate y'all being here. Thank you for your commitment to this plan. Dr. James was there from minute one to the end, and she was in there mixing it up and doing everything and truly leading from the front. So just wanted to take an opportunity to share that experience. Y'all also have some of the neatest kids I think I've ever gotten a chance to work with. I mean, boy, they certainly didn't take a back seat to any process or withhold any opinions or thoughts, and they were very much at the forefront of this design. So I want to take you through just a quick overview of the process, and then I will introduce some committee members and let them take you through the specific components of the process. Want to just take a moment to thank and praise those who served on this committee. This was truly a divergent group that really had divergent perspectives toward the common goal of student outcomes in Willis ISD. So I want to commend your district for the design of the committee, because their end product was truly amazing. This was our process that began in February with stakeholder engagement. We had summits, focus groups, and surveys. Then evolved to the final product, in which we had goals and protocols and a rollout and a timeline for putting this into practice, culminating with today. A little bit about as far as the methodology that we use in the design of a plan. First and foremost, this is a plan that's going to be focused on students and student outcomes. The students were very much a part of the design of this, and certainly were the focus throughout. It is also something that is very much a community plan. So one of the things that, if there was one quote that was probably most uttered throughout the entire process, is, what does it say in the engagement report? What is your community saying about this? How does this reflect the values of your community? So that is something that very much the community involvement in the design of it, but certainly the input. This is a plan that's, our work is to align and integrate your systems. This is not one more thing. This is not a unilateral process. This is a strategic plan that we design is always one that's going to make sure that not only do you have aspirational goals, but you're also going to have systems for executing those goals. And like I said, an aspirational goal setting. You don't set goals based on where you're at. You set goals based on where you want kids to be, and a call to action. And once you've determined that, we have a backwards design that works from the back to articulate all the steps in the process. And finally, leading to action and an action plan. The biggest challenge of working with your design team was putting together a multi-year action plan and going through the process of, listen, you can't do it all in year one, because they certainly wanted to. But putting together an action plan that reflects the most important resources in your district of time, treasure, and talent, and making sure that you are able to be focused and achievable and be able to allocate the resources, time, and staff to be able to have a successful plan is a critical part of that. So we want to make sure that this is something that isn't a pretty notebook that sits on a shelf and you guys can post on your website and never do anything with. This is very much going to drive your actions and district behaviors over the next few years. So as you can see, as I talked about, this was a group that was very much focused toward a common goal, and was, I can confidently say, 100% dialed in. Nobody was stepping out to check phones. Nobody was there as just kind of a courtesy representation. Everyone who was there was working shoulder to shoulder, and the leaders were leading with, and the students were very much, as you can see, the students aren't there in just presence only. You can see they're very much a part of providing the design on what took place. So, community engagement, like I said, is a very important part, and you guys had very robust community engagement. So you can see 4,118 participants were involved in the community engagement report in the survey. Over half of which were students, and 782 grandparents, and guardians. So had a very robust participation. Want to commend your district for their efforts and your communications department for getting that word out and making sure that that was something that was repeatedly in front of stakeholders and repeatedly in front of students to make sure that everyone was able to be involved and provide their input. That ultimately, when we look at we take the community surveys, we take our focus groups, and our meetings with all stakeholders, and we eventually connect the dots and provide a stakeholder report. The community engagement report is the backbone of the strategic plan. This is a community plan, and like I said, was something that throughout the entire process, whenever we felt, when opinions were varying, it always came back to, what do we have in the community report? What is the community saying about this? What is the community identifying as the needs for the district? So this was the driving force for the entire design of your strategic plan. So now I want to introduce our community members and staff who were part of this plan and part of the design team. They're going to take you through all the agreed upon actions and components in the plan. Now, the strategic plan is we say an agreed upon plan because we do not do anything that is to consensus. Every part of the strategic plan was something that every member of the team agreed on these actions. And we know that that's critical because these people are representatives of their community and want to make sure that their voices are honored, and we're not walking away with something that we can't just all fly the flag for this strategic plan and be able to support. So with that, I will let Sam, if you prepare to kick us off, sir.
Hello, board. I'm Sam Prosla, owner and manager of Willis Supermarket right down here, and I appreciate this opportunity. Dr. James, thank you so much. And I appreciate every opportunity to work in school, at the school district. So with this plan, the belief systems, and I'll go through it, our beliefs: we believe quality education creates growth opportunities for current, future generations of Willis ISD staff, students, and community. We believe everyone has the potential for growth through genuine relationship building and guidance. We believe all students have unique interests, strengths that lead them to their own learning path of success, or to success. We believe successful outcomes are achieved by all when provided engaging and diverse opportunities in safe environments. So these we've really worked hard to get, and these are our beliefs. Call to action. Our call to action: all students will develop the knowledge, values, and skills to confidently pursue their goals, work collaboratively, embrace and overcome challenges, and thrive as adaptable, productive members of our ever-changing world. And once again, as a group in this plan, we worked extremely hard to get this, and as a part of it, I mean, it was really satisfying to see. So the next part, our leader profile, again, all of this stuff was very thoroughly worked through multiple days. So our leader profile: the leader adapts, appreciates individuality, builds positive relationships, communicates, and emphasizes. And on the other side of it is the learner profile for students, or not only students, but with also just in general with the learners. The learner adapts, collaborates, communicates, demonstrates curiosity, empathizes, manages time, problem solves, takes accountability, and thinks critically. So these profiles and just our vision of this program, I think it's phenomenal, and it's really the collaborative work is really, really good.
Hi, I'm Monica Harrell. I am a 6th grade science teacher at Lynn Lucas, and I have our goals and objectives. Our committee really came up with 5 big goals, and our 5 goals were: we will foster student success by establishing safe learning environments that enhance engagement and achievement for all. The second one was: we will ensure transparent communication on district financial resources to drive community knowledge, approval, growth, and student success. Number 3, we will enhance instructional effectiveness and student success by providing targeted development, fostering a positive and productive district culture, and promoting staff and student growth. Number 4, we will build genuine relationships and create a safe environment where every stakeholder, which includes staff, families, students, and the broader community, is an active partner in education. And our last one, number 5, we will align communication to ensure messaging is intentional, consistent, and easily accessible. So there was a lot of debate over what our different goals should be, and when we came to a consensus, we first agreed on the goals before we decided what the objectives were to reach each of those 5 goals. So for our first goal, the student success goal, we have 5 objectives. The first one, 1.1, was establish a student code of conduct for elementary and secondary campuses that reflect behavior expectation for students on Willis ISD campuses. And I want to kind of back up just a second. When we created these goals, we had a huge discussion about some of this might be what we already have in place, but maybe that weren't consistent across all the campuses. So that's why, if you look at it, we knew that some of this was already built into our stakeholders and what we already have. 1.2, provide training to students and staff on WISD behavioral expectations, including restorative approaches for instances when expectations are not met. 1.3, develop and implement clear safety and maintenance protocols. 1.4, establish norms for classroom climate, routines, and procedures that allow for productive struggle. And 1.5, develop and implement best practices for integrating technology and AI to enhance and support classroom instruction. Our second goal was definitely about our financial resources in our district. So our objective for 2.1 was to create an accessible reporting process where stakeholders can easily understand the financial breakdown of district finances. Our second objective was implement and foster an inclusive system for community members in financial matters to support and inform decision makers. Number 3, develop and maintain a data collection reporting system that is comprehensive, timely, that is very clearly expressed. Number 4, disseminate information through community partnerships, local publications, and all socially available media applications. And number 5, create a long-term roadmap that promotes enrollment growth, facility expansion, maintenance, ensuring alignment, and fiscal responsibility. Our third goal was about the instructional effectiveness and our student success. Objective 1, collaborate with students to develop individualized pathways and trackers to obtain academic, social, personal, and/or career goals. Objective number 2, track and utilize data to determine needs for enrichment, intervention, and remediation based on students' individualized needs. Objective 3, prioritize and develop critical, relevant, and aligned sessions across district and campus professional development. Objective 4, establish a career mentor program at all grade levels that utilizes staff, students, and community members. And Objective 5, develop a comprehensive community directory to make it easily accessible for staff to bring community stakeholders into the classroom lessons, field trips, and student experiences. Our goal 4 was one that was really important to our students that came to our sessions, and they really wanted to focus on the relationships. So we have our 4 objectives for our student relationships. Implement district-wide safety protocols and inclusive practices that led to all stakeholders feeling physically safe, emotionally supported, and respected. Objective 2, strengthen mutual relationships with the families and the broader community through outreach, consistent engagement, and collaboration. Objective 3, build and maintain genuine, trust-based relationships by setting and modeling clear expectations, providing constructive feedback, and fostering open communications for mutual growth and understanding. And Objective 4, strengthen educators' skills in building genuine relationships and effective mentorships to support student success in a collaborative school environment. And our last goal was about our communications. So Objective 1 was to conduct surveys to identify frequently used communication platforms by all stakeholders, including staff, students, parents, and community members. Objective 2, utilize data from surveys to analyze and streamline district and campus messaging platforms. And Objective 3, implement district norms for communication platforms and messaging.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, President Hagmeyer, Dr. James, Ms. Bischoff. I'm honored to be here tonight to go over the objectives timeline. The objectives timeline is designed to guide our progress over the next 5 years on how we're going to accomplish these goals. So for year one, we're going to focus on laying the foundation. We'll establish the student code of conduct. We're going to create systems for data collection and reporting related to finance. We're going to launch our mentor program, a career mentor program. We're going to ensure district-wide safety and inclusion, strengthening relationships with students, families, and community, and identifying how our families prefer to communicate through surveys and other questions we might ask about that. All right, for year 2, we're going to focus on training and implementation. So we'll have students and staff receiving training on behavior expectations for the restorative practices, developing those clear safety and maintenance protocols along with classroom norms for routines and procedures, and creating an accessible reporting process where stakeholders can easily understand our financial breakdown in our district. Continuing on for year 2, we're going to collaborate with students, track and utilize data, prioritize and develop critical, relevant, and aligned sessions across district and campus PD, professional development. And we're going to utilize in 5.2 the data from those surveys we mentioned earlier in order to analyze and streamline our district communication. For 3 to 5, we're going to work on moving into innovation and community-wide alignment. We're going to develop and implement best practices for integrating technology, implement and foster an inclusive system for community members. We're going to disseminate information through community partnerships and our local publications, and creating a long-term roadmap that promotes enrollment growth, facility expansion, and maintenance. And all of Domain 2 that we're talking about, Objectives 2, are talking about our financial resources. We're going to continue on, and we're going to develop a comprehensive community directory to make it easily accessible for staff. We're going to build and maintain genuine relationships and work on that, building relationships with students and with stakeholders. And we're going to strengthen our educator skills in building those relationships, and we're going to implement district norms for communication platforms and management. This roadmap will reflect our commitment to providing safe, supportive, and a forward-thinking district that will ensure all students will thrive. Thank you.
Like I said, the biggest challenge of that is really identifying, because none of those are things that you want to put off. Everything on that list is important. So the next step is identifying your district, is identifying an action plan for those year 1 objectives. So those will be some things to provide you specific actions for this first year. Going to also, another part was designing a learning framework. The learning framework combines all those things that produce student outcomes and learning for students. So when you look at everything from technology to the role of the adults, what the adults, the teachers, the leaders are doing, the resources that are used, the curriculum, the way in which the instruction is delivered, all of those things may work separately. But a framework combines all of them and makes them a systematic process. So in a way, you kind of look at this as a metaphor. You look at a suitcase as you're going on a trip. You think of all the things that go when you go on vacation that you would take that you certainly don't want to be carrying in your hands. So you put all those things in a suitcase and you organize them, and they all have a place and organized for your journey. In many ways, that's the way that a framework operates. You have all of the things that can impact student learning, but you've combined them all into a place and a role and a system. So this is the design that is representing that system. So this is effectively branding your district learning framework. So, do y'all have any questions or anything I can answer for you? Ms. Traylor.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation and approve the Willis ISD strategic plan as presented by Engage to Learn.
We have a motion by Ms. Traylor, a second by Mr. Carson. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I got a few comments about this. I just wanted to say that I'm very proud of our community and our school district for the effort that's went into this. I can see that there's a lot of work that went into this. I'm excited about this, and although there's some things that may, like Ms. Harrell said, may already be in place, just because something is there doesn't mean it can't be improved. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to improve our district with this strategic plan. Thank y'all for all your hard work on this.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item B, discuss, consider approval of design development concept for ninth grade center.
Evening, Board, Dr. James. We're at the stage now of the ninth grade center. It's our second phase out of 3 of design. First one was SD's, then this is DD's design development. We're here to look at the design development through Huckabee's eyes. They have a show to show up, and we're asking the board to approve the design development and move into construction documents. So I'll turn it over to our architect, Huckabee, and then she will give the presentation of our design development, and then we'll ask for a vote to approve the design development.
Hi, good evening, Willis ISD Board of Trustees, Dr. James, and Ms. Bischoff, our special guest of this. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. For anyone in the room who I have not had an opportunity to meet yet, my name is Carla Castillo. I'm an architect with Huckabee. Joining me from my team tonight, Amanda Tabola and Caitlin Munch. And as Bob mentioned, we are here tonight to ask for your approval to move into the next phase of design. You'll remember that we were here back in March to ask for your approval to complete the schematic design phase. So since we saw you in March, team has been fast and furious, hard at work, really working on refining that design of the ninth grade center, and we are really excited to be able to show you the progress that we've made over the last couple of months. As always, just love to start off by saying thank you guys so much. It really does take a village to make projects like this successful and possible. So the time and energy that everyone on y'all's team has spent with us, A, has not gone unnoticed, and B, is just such a huge reason to why we've made it to the point that we are today. So really just excited to be able to show you guys the progress that we've made as a whole. So I'm going to start off by talking about the site plan, and then we're going to move into floor plans from there. One thing that I do want to point out, nothing has radically changed from what you saw last time, which is a fantastic thing. Usually what we like to do between schematic design and design development, in a perfect ideal world, that's when we're working on refining the design and hopefully not radically changing anything. So the site plan and floors 1, 2, and 3 will look very familiar to what you saw last time. Just know there's a lot of detail refinement that's been happening in the last couple of months. So I'm going to just take you quickly through the site plan, just do a refresher for you on the floor plans and where we've been. And then I'm going to jump into showing you the updated images and rendering to give you an idea of the progress that we've made, and really those images just being the highlight of why we're here tonight. So site plan, where the letter B is located, existing Willis High School. To the left of that will be the ninth grade center addition, noted by the purple letter A. From there, I'm going to start at the number 1, and we're going to go clockwise around the building. Again, I'm going to go fairly quickly here because not much has changed in terms of the layout. So 1 and 2 are going to indicate the main entry and the student drop-off. From there, we make our way around the building to the number 3, where the special education dedicated drop-off area will be. You'll see a canopy that connects the ninth grade center to the CTE. We did hear concerns that there was a lot of concern about having student visibility and student safety as students are going from the ninth grade center over to the CTE. So as part of the design, we've actually included a canopy design that shields students visibly from the public. So we'll have a rendering of what that looks like this evening. 4 and 5 is going to be your courtyard leading into where your dining area is and your student commons that overlook the football field. 5 and 6 is going to be where your service area is. That is in order to maintain the continuity between the service area that you already have in the back of your Willis High School building, just trying to make that as efficient of a layout as possible. And then 7 is going to be where you have the secondary entrance for athletics. So the big idea, again, with that secondary entrance being that you're keeping the public away from your student population as you're having those after-hours events, or even if you have any tournaments that are happening during the day. So again, the highlight here is that this all should look very familiar to you based on what we presented last time. No big, wild, and crazy changes, which we very much welcome. So As a recap for floor plans, again, I'll go through these fairly quickly. Existing Willis High School in the gray up top. You'll have a corridor that connects you to the 9th grade center. The darker blue there is going to be all of your athletic facilities, so a weight training room, locker rooms, a competition gym, and we've got some renderings of what that looks like now. In the lighter blue area is going to be your fine arts spaces, and so while the programs at the 9th grade center for fine arts are not extensive by any means, what we didn't want to do was tuck them away or make them feel like they were any less than important as the rest of the programs are. So you'll notice that the fine arts programs are located off of a main corridor. On the left-hand side, you'll see a stacked academic block, so it's going to be academic spaces on floors 1, 2, and 3. The coral at the bottom of that page is going to be the new main entrance into the 9th grade center. And then as we make our way around the building where the green is, it's going to be a servery and dining area, again, overlooking the football field. As we move into the second floor, again, this is going to be a stacked academic block of classrooms. The big highlight here is that we were able to introduce almost all classrooms get some sort of form of natural daylight into them. Just a couple of classrooms that you'll see there in the center in purple that did not get that opportunity, but for the most part, 95% of classrooms ended up on an exterior wall, so we were able to accomplish that. In the green in the center, you'll see a 2-story media center. We've popped the roof of that part of the space up in order to get natural daylight into that space. And then on the 3rd floor, it'll look very similar to the 2nd floor, classroom spaces around the perimeter. You'll notice that void where the 2nd floor for the media center is. One of the requests that we heard as well along the way was just trying to maintain as much visual transparency, keeping an eye on the kiddos, all of that being very important. So you'll notice there's a full circulation path around the floor plate of the building as well in order to maintain as much open circulation and visibility as possible. So with that, taking you into renderings that we've produced for tonight. Really excited about what we have tonight as a whole. The big part of progress that we've made since last time that you saw us is just refining a lot of what the building is ultimately going to look like. As you know, one of the challenges that we are faced with is all of the buildings that you all currently have on site. You have an existing campus that was built in the 90s, and then you've got some really incredible, elegant, refined buildings in the CTE and PAC Center that we wanted to pay respect to both. We didn't want to come in and have this addition be its own identity, but instead what we wanted to do is take all of the existing architectural buildings that you have on site and find a way to marry them all together, but still introduce some components that were individual to the 9th grade center. So you'll see a lot of brick that's used on the building that'll help tie back to the existing Willis High School. And then you'll see materials introduced such as metal panels, those charcoal colors that help tie it into your PAC as it stands today, and your CTE building as well. So this is a view as if we are looking from 830. So one of the main focuses here being, of course, the main entry. We wanted to make sure that as someone is approaching the building, wayfinding, of course, important. We want someone to know when they're coming into the building, you want to be able to know where you're going into. Also important in the design as well was having the priority on the athletics entrance as well, so you knew where the two entrances to those campuses are. This is a view looking towards the athletics entry on the right-hand side, main entry on the left-hand side. The brick box that you see essentially is the bleachers that are in the competition gym. One of the things that we were able to accomplish here is actually use the natural shape that the building creates by having those bleachers that are coming out towards us and use that as an overhang to connect the athletics entry over to the main entry. So having that continuity of space was something we were really excited about. You'll notice that underneath the windows there's a darker color of brick banding because there is so much brick on this project. One of the things that we wanted to do and talked about a lot was just how you break up some of that mass by introducing a couple of new materials to help break up those large expanses. So as we move our way around the building, this is the side, imagine behind me standing in this photo would be the CTE building. Again, what we wanted to do here was just make sure that we were being respectful of all the other buildings that were on site. So this part of the building actually faces the CTE and plays off a lot of the materials that are used on that CTE building. But again, still wanting to give this building its own identity and its own vision. So we introduced a stone material as well to bring some warmth into the project as a whole. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the main entry there in the background. You'll also see where the bus is currently shown. There's a ability to actually use, again, the natural overhang the building creates to be able to have a drop-off space for special education to be able to get dropped off in a separate protected area. You'll start to see on the left-hand side of the image there a little bit of a sneak peek of that canopy I was talking about. Where the road actually crosses there, we've popped the canopy up so that vehicular traffic can pass that area as needed. This is a view standing from the football field looking back at the 9th grade center. So on the right-hand side there, you'll see that canopy design that I was talking about earlier that has those vertical panels that have been integrated into it so that students have that visual protection from the public on the other side of that parking lot. Again, introducing the stone there at the stair towers, the right-hand side being the part of the building that faces CTE, and then on the left-hand side, you'll see the stacked academic classrooms, and then the dining area where all the glass is shaped to bring in as much daylight as possible. As we make our way walking towards the building, again, wanted to make sure that we were introducing a couple of different materials here to help break up some of those large expanses of brick. So we, in between the windows, have introduced that darker cocoa colored brick, and then of course at the bottom, we're all loud, we're all proud about it, it's the Willis purple. We wanted to make sure that we were still bringing in a couple of those spirited colors into the design as well. So we have a purple glazed brick that's there at the center. You'll see a better view of it as we walk closer to the building here. On the left-hand side will be the dining area. Again, the large expanses of glass, just trying to bring in as much of that natural daylight as possible. As we move into the inside of the building, the other thing you'll notice too is that we tried to use a lot of the materials that were on the outside on the inside as well to try to tie those two aesthetics together. So as we move into the inside of the building, one of the things that we heard that was very loud and clear about what this group wanted to achieve was a collegiate, refined, and really just a sophisticated level to this 9th grade center. And so with that, we've introduced a lot of lighter color materials, so tile throughout all of the floors, the central staircase being really just a showstop piece in this building. On the left-hand side of the image, in the very back, is the main entrance. The right-hand side is the outdoor dining and courtyard that we just came from in the view. And again, one of the big ideas and pieces here being to try to maintain as much visual openness and transparency throughout the space as possible. So on the left-hand side of that staircase, you'll see the floor plates for the students will actually circulate around those floor plates for their classrooms. Library, again, 2-story media center here. On the left-hand side, we've got collaboration rooms and small group study spaces that are on both the 2nd and 3rd floors. So you'll have a couple of those smaller rooms that can be used for things like small group collaboration, study, breakout rooms. Those actually overlook into the media center. And then on the right-hand side, on the ground level where we're standing, you'll see there's an LGI that has operable partitions, so has the ability to be able to accommodate large groups. If you have professional development that's happening in there, you can take them into the LGI. You have the ability to flow over into the media center itself. And then above that, you'll see it's a collaboration flex space. So again, just trying to maintain as much of that visual transparency. You have an idea of what's going on and learning on display, as we like to call it. With these 2-story spaces, one of the things that we are faced with challenge-wise, of course, is acoustics, and so the gray paneling that you see around the room is going to be a textured acoustical panel. This is a view as if we were standing on the 2nd floor, looking back towards where we just were in that first picture of the interior that we showed. So just, again, showing how much of that visual connection is happening in the building at any one given point. You could be standing remotely anywhere in the building and have a pretty good eye on what's happening in the entirety of the space. So on the right-hand side, the competition gym. On the left-hand side is going to be the stack of academic blocks and academic wings. You'll see the purple glazed brick, again, brought in from the outside where the elevator is. And then on the right side, you'll see there's some windows. So as you're circulating on the 2nd floor, you'll actually be able to see into the gym to see getting an idea of what's going on in there. One of the things we want to point out as well, being that the gym ultimately had seating for right shy of 2,000 people. So we know with that, there's going to be a couple challenges that we face. There's going to be a lot of doors, got to get a lot of people out of that space should there ever be an emergency. And we also knew that we wanted the bleachers to be elevated, and so we knew that we were going to have to deal with some elevation changes that were happening between some of the spaces in the building. So we knew that doors and stairs were gonna have to come into play at some point, rather than just placing doors and stairs to get you from A to B. We wanted to be a little bit more intentional about how those stairs were being used. So you'll see that the landings at the stairs are a little bit larger, really intended to be sort of a gathering space, huddle space for kids to be able to just hang out at before going into the gym itself. Competition gym, so we've got a couple of really exciting pieces here. We are standing on the home side, looking back at the visitor side. You'll see in the center of the visitor side, there's a void. It's a tunnel that actually takes student athletes back into the locker room space and keeps them out of the general public area where the athletics entry is. And so being able to have a direct route from the locker room over to pretty much directly getting onto the court was an idea that we were really excited to talk about and explore, and really excited to be able to make it work. We have a LED ribbon display at the center of the court as well, so it can display things like Go Team Go, Get Loud, pretty much everything that you could think of, they can throw up there on the display. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a large LED scoreboard as well, so you have the ability to do things like instant replay. There's a camera platform in the space as well, so there'll be someone who's able to record it and someone who's able to play back production and do live replays, instant replays, things like that in this space. This is the dining area, again looking back out at the football field with the CTE building on the left-hand side. Here trying to bring in some warmth with that, the wood soffit panel, and talking a lot about the continuity of materials that was happening from the outside to the inside of the building, and really just trying to bring in as much natural daylight as we could into that space. We also wanted to start to talk about what this building was going to look like at night, and maybe doing something a little bit different than just traditional wall sconces or wall packs, and maybe a couple of features that we could talk about. So on the left-hand side, if you guys didn't see it on the daytime renderings, there is a metal Willis logo on the left-hand side. We talked about maybe doing some backlighting behind that, so we'd be able to just really showcase it, and again, just something to do, something a little bit different than what you would normally and traditionally see, and just trying to put a little bit more thought behind what lighting could look like for that building at night and what it could stand like. Which brings us to where we are this evening. As I mentioned, we were here a couple months ago looking for your approval to move past schematic design and into design development. We are now asking for your approval to approve the design development concept and then move into construction documents as of tomorrow. So like I said, fast and furious, the team has been heads down getting a ton of work done. Should we get approval from the board tonight, we'll be able to start construction documents tomorrow. Continue to just get as much information from the team as possible, work to wrap up drawings in the next 2 months, and then we will be back in November to present to you a GMP. Since you saw us last, we have our construction manager at risk on board with us as well. So Gamma has also they've dived right in with us, and they've been in the drawings with us, and we've gone through our first pricing estimate. And they've been right there alongside with us, making sure that we've got everything in order as it should be. So we'll be back in November with that GMP, ultimately tracking for a substantial completion of June of 27 for a building opening of fall of 27. So with that, again, just want to take the time to thank you guys so much on behalf of our team. It has been such a pleasure getting to work on this building. It's been so exciting. And we just really appreciate the energy, effort, and everything that we have felt from y'all's team this entire time. So we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation and approve the design development concept of Willis High School's 9th grade center and move forward into the construction document phase.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Coach Berry. Any more questions? All those? Yes.
So if I'm looking at this, Bob, Carla, is there any way that we can, because what y'all designed is beautiful, but trying to, like, overhangs and entryways, trying to make sure that they, like, now the front of the high school goes with that, and the 75 side, make sure it all blends, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think we have any.
I don't know, is that, obviously that's outside of the scope, but I think we would want it to all tie together and try to, like, the entrances to look the same, not look different, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, the entrance on this one is going to be different. It is completely different than the main entry. It has the same columns with the canopy, has that look, but a little bit tall. So,
and I'm not saying change that, but like, if there's metal on the walkways, can we change the overhang and the canopy in the front to where it kind of matches? Because I know, like, when we built the pack, we changed the color, like the outline of what the canopies look like and everything else. What I'm saying is making sure it all goes together. Because like even where the cafeteria is, if I remember, I can't remember, is it still green in the back? I don't even know what color that is. But making sure it all goes together.
and that's what we did on the front entry, and that's what we asked Huckabee, is we want to incorporate the pack because it was the newest one. It has the grayish metal, and that's what we've done to the entrance of the gym and the main entrance, is use that gray metal up underneath there in order to match the pack. So we're bringing the pack around to the other side with the amount of glass and the color of the soffits.
What I think you're asking is, are we able to take the existing high school and, I don't want to say upgrade, but match paint or match metal, match whatever
You
it
said
is?
the existing high school?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were
No.
this is new.
The existing high school, like the front of the high school, the current high school, making sure it matches the paint, the metal, whatever. Or even where the cafeteria area is.
Yeah, we may not be able to do that in this one, only because if this project goes inside the existing school and touches it, then things will change. Code compliance different, things will have to bring up to different, have to do things differently. So we could possibly talk about that and creating a separate project for that, but we
It would make sense to do it all while they're there.
Yeah, but we will not be able to include it into this project.
No, and I get that, but I'm saying like a separate.
Yes, we can, and we can look at that. I can get with Dr. James, we can get with, of course, Garrett, who has no money.
But I mean, just trying to put it all together to make sure.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, I'll get with Huckabee, we'll look at it and get with Dr. James and see and I see what you're saying now, just take the existing high school.
You don't want to pull up on the ninth grade center and go, man, the front entrance over here looks a whole lot better than the actual front entrance of the school.
Yeah,
So,
okay, yeah, we will start looking
try
into
to
that.
blend it all together.
We will start looking into that.
Thank you.
What about the sound system?
The what?
The sound system in the gym?
Yes, sir. We actually had a meeting on that the week before last. We have a nice sound system that's going in. It's a complete. We actually have I'll show you here. Get this back to the actual floor plan. I believe it is. On the left side, on the right side of the gym, when you leave the gym, that first gray area going back towards the school, that is a media room for the gymnasium. So that's where all of the sound system will be controlled. So we're looking at, there'll be all the software, all the computers, all the hardware, everything will be in there that will control the sound system and everything. There'll be separate mics, it'll be speakers in the ceiling, so it is a complete sound system for that. We had our athletic department, our fine arts department in there, so they were all in there and all agreed on what we needed, what was going to be the best for this school, and that's what we've done.
Good job.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item C, discuss, consider approval to join multi-district social media litigation.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. James, President Hagemeyer, Board, Ms. Bischoff. Tonight I'd like to discuss and consider for approval Willis ISD joining the multi-district litigation against social media. The purpose of this litigation is to hold social media companies accountable for knowingly designing addictive social media platforms that impact our kids, seek financial compensation for the mental health and disciplinary costs borne by schools, and push for reforms in how platforms operate and target youth. The contentions against the major social media platforms include use of algorithms that exploit psychological vulnerabilities of our children and teens, failure to moderate harmful content such as cyberbullying, self-harm, other dangerous challenges, The impact to our schools include increased student anxiety, depression, greater need for counseling, mental health staff, and reduced academic focus and classroom engagement. What is the legal framework? It's represented on a contingency basis, no cost. Currently, school districts in 39 states, including over 200 districts nationwide and dozens in the state of Texas, such as HISD, Conroe, Tomball, Klein, and Cypress Fairbanks have joined the litigation. What we gain by joining the lawsuit, potential financial recovery to offset mental health and intervention costs, increased pressure for platform reform and regulation, advocacy for student safety at a national level. What we risk, the risk is very minimal. The recommendation is just to join the litigation and protect our students and reclaim needed resources. Any questions? Yes, sir.
You have a question. So you said potentially gain financial recovery to offset mental health and intervention costs. Can you go into detail what that means?
So part of this litigation is, of course, that they do a payout very similar to the vape payout, where school districts receive financial compensation that they use for professional development or nursing or substance abuse programs for the vapes. It would be similar for on the mental health side for schools, or I guess we could use it however we deem to address social media issues.
And where's that compensation coming from? These companies, these social media companies?
Correct. Yes, sir.
If they win the suit?
Yeah. So some of the companies that are under this lawsuit are TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, which is the parent company of Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube.
And there's no cost at all to us?
No, sir.
Is there any future cost to us?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
We are recommending the school board approve participation in the national MDL lawsuit against social media companies.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item D, discuss, consider approval of action to adopt order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Willis ISD unlimited tax school bonds for one or more series containing other related matters.
Yes, sir. As we reviewed earlier in the evening, the board has previously approved the issuance of $45 million of the remaining $87.7 from the May 2024 election. Due to current proposed legislation, the district has identified a potential financial benefit to issuing the full $87 million this summer, and is requesting approval of an updated bond order to do so. This order gives us the flexibility to do either option, but I do anticipate that there will be a benefit to issue the full amount this summer. Again, we reviewed this earlier. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Mr. Williams.
Move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation and adopt an order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of the Willis Independent School District unlimited tax school building bonds in one or more series as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Lagway. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item E, discuss, consider approval of Yates Stadium bleacher purchase.
Good evening. In May, our purchasing department went with maintenance, athletics, along with our CFO and our chief operations officer to define the best approach for meeting the current and future needs for seating at Yates Stadium. Our conversation led to the decision that smaller sets of bleachers would meet our current and future needs through portable seating that can be used at all Willis ISD athletic events. Willis ISD has secured 6 sets of bleachers from outdoor aluminum that would be available by August 1st. We're excited that we're able to meet as many needs as we can with this one purchase. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Those bleachers, we were talking about it, but how tall are they?
They are 26 by 10.
Okay, and we can move them.
Yes, they're
Okay,
movable
they
with
have
this.
wheels on them, or do we got to trailer it? Do we know?
It can be moved with small
Tractor.
tractors or lawnmowers.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve outdoor aluminum to purchase bleachers for the Yates Stadium.
We have a motion by Ms. Jones, a second by Ms. Trader. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item F, discuss, consider approval to select architectural firm for the expansion of Cannon and Turner Elementary and to authorize Dr. James or her delegate to negotiate on behalf of Willis ISD.
Following Texas Government Code 2254, Willis ISD is asking the board to delegate authority to Dr. James or her delegate to negotiate with the architectural firms in order to secure design of a 10,000 square foot expansion at both Cannon and Turner Elementaries.
Mr. Jones.
There's a couple comments about this. I think for our district and where we're at right now, this is a strong statement on what we're trying to do, okay? Cannon and that, other elementaries add that really saves us a lot of money. The state ain't helping us, we all know, I don't mind saying that publicly, it's the truth. And we need to look at everything, and this, I think, is gonna be a great thing. So with that being said, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation and approve Dr. Kimberly James or her delegate authorization to negotiate and select an architectural firm for Cannon and Turner Elementary expansion following Texas Government Code 2254.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Carson. Any further discussion? Mr. Williams.
Are we locked into the $4 billion number?
The number?
Yes, ma'am.
We have not even we haven't really sat down with the architects to find out what the budget is. That is our estimate currently.
Okay, so I guess the question I'm asking is if we are saying $4 million and it comes in at 5, because it's using bond dollars and we can't be over a certain threshold, are we hamstringing ourselves by?
I think at this point in time, we're just authorizing her to negotiate with a architect
Yes.
to be able to see, and then we're gonna have to go out and see what it's actually gonna cost us.
Okay. I mean, I was just.
Yeah, so
you
we
know,
haven't
this
selected.
Slide says $4 million.
Yeah, Cliff, to answer your question, that's what we're considering a construction budget. We're taking the square footage of 10,000 square feet and saying, okay, what would we spend if we were sending this out to bid? And roughly we spend around $350 a square foot for construction. So that's what we're basing it on. Our construction budget really needs to be around $4 million.
I don't want us to get into the same thing we did with Lynn Lucas where we had to pull it back and because the numbers were
Yeah.
so far off.
Well, that was the reason that we're looking at a CM at risk contractor so we can negotiate and talk with them at the very beginning of the design for constructability review with their expertise to say, well, if you do this, it's going to cost you a little bit more, so let's stay with this something else. And they're going to work with us and the whatever designer we have to make sure that we stay in budget is what our goal is.
And I mean, obviously we have the bond dollars sitting there that will take care of this, but it's just trying to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item G, discuss, consider approval for expansion scope to elementary number 7.
With the rapid growth that we're currently having now, and the board just approved the expansion for Cannon and Turner, we're looking to do this the same thing for our current elementary number 7. During the design, we anticipated in the future that we would be extending and adding on to this campus, so we have included in the design the infrastructure to support the building for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. What we're asking for tonight is to add roughly around 10,000 square feet, which is going to add around 10 classrooms of support for we can capture this future growth, so when we do our rezoning the following year, we can capture some additional, instead of going to one campus now, we've increased the size of this one so we can include some different neighborhoods to capture this going into that campus. So we have to rezone, and that's what we're trying to do, is maybe only rezone once for a while, but incorporate some different areas and move forward. And we're hoping that you'll give us permission to approve the change order so we can move forward.
I move that we accept the superintendent's
Hold on,
recommendation.
Scott.
He's got a question.
On the timeline, let's talk about that first, okay? I don't want this add-on, talk to me how y'all plan on running this out there.
Well, talking with our contractor and talking with the designer, Stantec, we're looking at 2 to 3 months to try to get this designed. And then we'll get started on it. But it looks like this addition won't be finished probably till October and November, the addition itself.
Okay, and what about when it comes to the price point per square foot? How are you gonna hold Stewart to the fire on that?
We're looking at them right now to start giving us preliminary numbers on the total, on the square footage is what we're looking at, and we feel comfortable that we are still within that $4 million range with our square foot price is what, I have already met with them and talked with them about a preliminary budget, so we feel comfortable about that.
All right, go ahead, Scott, I'm sorry.
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the expansion of scope for elementary number 7.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, second by Ms. Traylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item H, discuss, consider approval of a delegate or alternative to the 2025 Texas Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly.
Thank you so much. The TASB Tex Ed Con Conference is being held September 11th through the 14th in Houston at the George R. Brown Convention Center. TASB 2025 Delegate Assembly will be held September 13th and registration opens July 22nd. The TASB Delegate Assembly is your annual membership meeting, and this event is where all members have a voice in the overall direction of the organization. The delegate will be the voice for the Board of Trustees, ensuring the priorities for Willis ISD and our community are reflected in TASB's work. You have any questions?
Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. We, the Board of Trustees, elect Scott Carson as the official voting delegate and Charles Perry as the alternate to the 2025 TASB Delegate Assembly.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Item I, discuss, consider approval of Willis High School Culinary International Trip.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the school board, Dr. James, Ms. Bischoff, thank you for stepping in. So, once again, I get to play clean up with some exciting stuff right here. The Culinary Arts Program is hoping to take an international trip to Milan, Florence, Rome, and in Italy from March 4th through the 11th, 2026. I see some smiles already and some hopeful grins. Students will take 2 cooking classes taught by professional chefs. They would visit venues that make balsamic vinegar, prosciutto, and white truffle oil. They would also have opportunities to tour Florence, Vatican City, Milan, and Bologna. Now, I know I'll just answer the first question you have. We already have really great people lined up to chaperone. So I just want you to know that. So, any other questions?
Already signed up to be a chaperone.
Sounds like a good time right there. Go ahead.
I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation and approve the international trip request for Willis High School's Culinary Arts Program.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, second by Coach Perry. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Board member comments.
Yeah, great job. We saw some improvements on some things. I know we still got a lot of work to do. I appreciate for sure all y'all's hard work. All y'all. I sat there a couple years ago when I got on the board, we were heading the opposite way on these outcomes. And it was extremely disappointing as a board member to see that. And to see that we're turning it around and we're going the right direction is very exciting. And I want to thank y'all for that.
Just remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so if anybody asks, y'all just tell them. You're heading in the right direction.
Superintendent comments.
Thank you so much. Our next board meeting is July 9th. I know many of y'all are going on vacation or trips. I just ask everybody to be safe and enjoy and come back healthy. So thank you very much.
Mr. Williams.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Traylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank y'all. Have a great summer.